Welcome to the Natural Menopause Anti-Aging Club, our introductory video and workbook that kind of get you started on your journey to clearing up all your symptoms and really transforming your life. And we're just starting out today with these 20 essentially important lifestyle factors. So I want you to follow along with the workbook. These are the ones that are responsible for 60% of your symptoms, even though they're not the sexy things like take this supplement and it will completely reignite your sex life. These are the underlying factors that are responsible for everything else working well. So let's get started. All right. So a lot of you have asked, I don't understand my score. So this is a chart I made up to show you exactly where you fall within the entire set of scores and really explain about what I mean between biological age and chronological age. Okay. So let me get my pointer out. Let's start with the top part of the scale. So if you are at the -21 to -31, you are doing fantastic. That means that your biological age is lower than your chronological age, meaning that if you are 50, your biological age may be more like 45, 40, depending on a lot of other factors. But you're doing a lot of good lifestyle ways of living that are causing your body to age slower than a lot of other people, for example. All right. Now, if you're in the -15 to -21, you're doing really well. Just need to make some minor tweaks. -5 to -15, not bad. Have definite room for improvement. 2 thumbs up. If you're in the +5 to -5, you're in the average range. So what that means in terms of the biological chronological age, they're pretty matched. So that if you're 50, your biological age and chronological age are about the same, which means that you're headed to an average lifespan, which is around 81 for women. So in that range. Now, if you want to live older and longer and healthier, then these are the lifestyle factors that are going to help you do that. If you're +5 to +15, +6 to +15, you're headed in the wrong direction. And we need to kind of start turning things around, that you're starting to age faster. If you're in the +16 to +25, you're probably having some pretty significant symptoms. We ask you not to be discouraged, that you start small and make small changes because we don't want to make any radical changes all at one time. But as you make those changes and start improving your lifestyle and we start adding some supplements and helping your body heal faster, you're going to start feeling better and you can start reversing that effect that you had. It's just like if you stopped smoking years ago, it does take time for your body to heal from the effects of the smoking. And the same thing with these other lifestyle factors. If you're in the +26 to +38 range, then we need to talk because you probably have some really serious issues that we need to work on. And we're going to have to work pretty slowly. So that means if you are 50, you may actually be aged like a 60 or 65 or 70-year old person on the inside. And now's the time to make those changes. Okay, does that make sense? All right, let's move on. I just wanted to let you know that this information has been collected over many years, but that the factors and the choices are based on the most current research. And I had started out reading this book called Real Age by Michael Royson. And this is a copy of that, You Staying Young. And I was really fascinated by this whole concept of biological age, chronological age. And I started making some of these changes many years ago, even before menopause, but it really helped me in menopause. So the lifestyle factors accelerate aging. They also are the same ones that contribute to the symptoms of menopause. And it's estimated, like I said earlier, that 60% can be under our control, even though we know it's sometimes really hard to control our own behavior. And that's something that we can work on. It had a lot to do with our negative thoughts and things that we learned in the past that may not really be serving us. And how do we learn how to shift that? So we're going to look at the factors. Let's take a look at the next. All right, let's get started. So this is the first question about the barbecue and fried foods. So the question was, how frequently do you eat fried or barbecued foods? And you had choices of every day, a few times a week, once a week, or rarely. And the best answer being rarely, because even though they taste good, when we cook foods at high temperatures, they tend to form toxins and cause oxidative stress and accelerated aging. So if you're eating those kind of foods all the time, your body's having to work really hard to cellular regeneration. And same thing with the barbecue, with the fried foods. Fried foods have the two things where they're cooked at really high temperatures, but they also have all of the oil in it that's sometimes not good oil, partially hydrogenated oils, and maybe too many oils for our body to actually adapt to. So that is the best one for that. So what I want you to do is be following along with your workbook. And in case you didn't catch a message that I put on the site, is that if you print this out, the workbook, 4 to a page, so you can print it out 4 to a page, and you print it on front and back. You waste less paper and less ink, and it'll be a lot easier to work with. But I want you to do is set what is your goal. So if you're eating it a few times a week, maybe you can cut down a little bit and say maybe once a week. So you decide what your goal is. And then on each of these, you're going to decide what is your priority, 1, 2, or 3. Is this a high priority for you? You put a 1, medium, put a 2, and not too much, a 3. So motivation level 1 through 10, 10 being the highest motivation, 1 being not so much. So you record that on in your workbook. All right, let's go to the next slide. Now, how about healthy oils? We talked about the frying food, which is often not the healthy oils, because the healthy oils aren't usually have a high heat point, such as extra virgin olive oil, or called EVOO, EVOO for extra virgin olive oil. That is one of the best ones, and I recommend you incorporate that as much as you can during the day. You can put it, you can take it in a teaspoon or tablespoon, or you can put it on your salads, put it on your food. I add it to a lot of my foods on a regular basis every day. You also have flaxseed oil, which is very healthy, sesame seed oil, avocado oil, butter, and ghee, different kinds of oil. And even though butter and ghee are saturated fats, they're actually really good for you. They have a lot of healthy elements. And the quote of that here talks about the vitamin A, D, K, and E, and contains CLA, which is a type of a biochemical that actually helps to combat obesity. So not so bad to be eating that, even though they're saturated, but you just don't want to consume them in really large quantities. The flaxseed and flaxseed oil are kind of cool too, because they have lignans, which bind to estrogen receptors. So if you're trying to be natural in your approach and you want to improve your estrogen response, then lignans and flaxseed oil can be very helpful for hot flashes and vasomotor symptoms of menopause. And they also help really improve our skin texture. And that definitely becomes a problem with a lot of menopausal women. And I hear them, a lot of people talking about how do I improve my skin? My skin's looking the same. Well, flaxseed oil is definitely one of those that we can eat that can help with that. And here we talk about how multiple studies suggest that replacing saturated fats with polyunsaturated fats, such as those found in healthy oils like olive oil, can reduce coronary heart disease, improve overall cardiovascular health, and potentially slow down biological aging. So here, we have a case where definitely are improving menopause, but we're also improving our age at the same time. So again, go a minute and fill out your sheet. The best Answer would be 2 times per day, from rarely, occasionally, daily, 2 times per day. So, if you want to increase that, what is your goal, your priority level, and your motivation level for that? Next slide. All right, how about our fruit and vegetable consumption? I mean, all of us have heard from probably a young age that we need to increase to at least 5 a day. And I really recommend most of it being vegetables, one fruit, because we're trying to keep our sugar level down, and fruit is raise our blood sugar. So try to keep it to one fruit and at least 4 to 5 vegetables. And at the end of your workbook, I put in a special resource that will help you increase the amount of fruits and vegetables that you're eating every day and give you some ideas of how you can do that. So the answers here were, looking at this the same as you. So we're going to none to rarely eating fruits and vegetables, a few servings per week, 1 serving per day, 3 servings per day, or 5 servings per day. So I just told you the best answer, obviously, is 5 servings per day. So there have been a lot of analysis of this over many years, and there's no doubt that it does help prevent cardiovascular disease and cancer, which are really start to become more pronounced in midlife, and more people you'll hear or have cancer or cardiovascular disease. And one way to truly help with that is to increase your fruits and vegetables that will lower your mortality rates from all causes. So that they're antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-aging, going to help your joints, going to help you feel better in so many ways. They don't even know all the phytochemicals that are in all our fruits and vegetables. And it's hard to just take a vitamin that has all of that in it because they're it I'll just give you an example. For instance, in vitamin C that you get from a lot of fruits and vegetables like red pepper, oranges. What's the other one I was thinking of? Kiwi fruit is also really high. The vitamin C is not ascorbic acid. We've learned to kind of think that they're the same, but ascorbic acid is only the little tiny center of the vitamin C molecule, and there's all these other bioflavonoids that are attached to that molecule that are really helpful for as an antioxidants. And one of those is called quercetin, Quercetin. And that one is like a natural antihistamine that helps with sinus problems, helps prevent sinus infections. And I do take it if I ever, start developing an allergic reaction. I'll take extra quercetin that comes from the vitamin C molecule, and it comes. The one that I take also comes with the vitamin C with the whole molecule in it. So that's really important. So I did develop a YouTube video on this. You can click on the link and watch more about the food system and look at the guide that I have that uses the 1, 2, 3 system and how to portion your sizes and what exactly is considered 1 serving, because that can be confusing too. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so this was a really interesting topic also in terms of anti-aging and menopause. And they have found that people around the world who lived the longest had the highest levels of dietary fiber. And I included in the resource section a listing of all the top fiber foods and how much is in them so that you'd have a better idea of how much it would take to get to the level that we're recommending, which is 25 grams. So that's one way of looking at it. Now, on my it said, how often do you consume whole grains? So it's looking at portions. How many portions do you have? Do you rarely, once a week, a few times a week, daily, multiple times per day? And we don't everyone understands what has high fiber. That's why I put that chart in there for you. And it can incorporate whole grains like whole wheat, psyllium, brown and wild rice, oatmeal, quinoa, which has become one of my new favorites because I'm gluten free and quinoa is have gluten in it. There's buckwheat, and other whole grains. There's raw fruits and raw vegetables. When they're in the raw state, they also have a certain kind of fiber. And these, and fibers, but it's good to have both. They're soluble and insoluble. And all of them are actually important for us. So we want to incorporate all of that. So look at the guide at the end and go ahead and set your goal. We want to have multiple servings a day because we want to get up to that 25 grams per day. So take a look at your goal, your priority, motivation, and we'll move on to the next slide. All right, so let's talk a little bit about sugar, soda, and processed foods is on the next slide. And I think you can well imagine that what I'm going to say here. I work in an office where people brought in the donuts and the big muffins and all that kind of stuff every day. And oh my God, I gained so much weight. It was like really terrible. Plus, I was sleepy during the day. I remember one time I did go through a red light, didn't cause any problem, thank the Lord, but aired me. And that's when I started finding out how much eating those things affects our up and down blood sugar levels, some people more than others, but apparently I was highly affected. So many studies have been done on this over many years that show that increased processed foods of all kinds increase your blood pressure, can cause cardiovascular disease, heart attacks and strokes, and early death. So this is definitely one of the very important lifestyle factors. And on the sheet, let me see, where am I? Oh, oh, here we are. Okay, so I had on there of my meals. So some people do eat those kind of foods most of their meals once per day, few times a day, to rarely. So rarely is definitely the top choice on that, and the reasons are clear on there. Sodas can contribute, also an important thing I did want to mention, that sodas can contribute to the loss of bone density. And this was something I found out too around menopause when I had my first bone density test. And I found someone told me that if you're drinking sodas, phosphorus content competes with the calcium that leaches the calcium out of your bones. And I started having bone loss at a very early age because of drinking diet sodas. So need to stop drinking the sodas and cut down all of these processed foods. They cause weight gain, fluid retention, and they definitely worsen menopause symptoms. I know we kind of get lazy and think, oh, I'll just have a little bit of this candy bar and I'll just have a little bit of this for breakfast. But the fact is, it really is slowly killing us from the inside out. And if you need help getting away from sugar, I can definitely give you some recommendations. We can talk about that. There are ways that can make a big difference in helping you do that. And I have been through that myself. All right, next slide. We would talk about how many glasses of water or something like herbal tea or things like that, things that don't have a lot of extra additives like drinking fruit juice is probably not the best way to do that. Although you can take some fruit juice, mix it with your water, that would be okay. So, of course, per day is what we want to be, which on the questionnaire was 8 glasses per day or more. Adequate hydration is just an essential part of our body because we are, I think, 99% water or maybe more. It's something in that range. And I used to have a professor that would say, not drinking enough water is like not flushing the toilet because we can't remove the toxins from our body on a very cellular level. And it also helps us eliminate through our bowels. So if you're not going to the bathroom enough, it's probably because you're not drinking enough water. So this is an effective thing. And also w- something that happens starting from menopause forward because of our hormonal changes. Many women get a lot of UTIs, and it's very common. Be, reason is they're not drinking enough water. And as you get older, also, I want to mention that your thirst mechanism in your brain doesn't function the same way. So you don't get this little message saying, time to drink water. You might not think about it all day. You might be busy. You might be working and just not, or not being near water. So you have to make arrangements to make sure that you have water with you or that you can have access to water and drink as clean water as possible. Depending on where you live, that may be that you have to use filtration, and then you have filters that are good for apartments and houses and work related. All right, so that is water. If you're not drinking enough, set your goal for that. This was very interesting. That I found in the research is that drinking one drink a day is actually give longer longevity than abstaining completely. And I don't think they completely understand that, but one thing you can think of is like with the Mediterranean lifestyle that they have a glass of wine with dinner and they're having a relaxing dinner, drinking some wine, eating their food. They take their time and they socialize and they eat a lot of meals together with their family. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that is something that they did find that having one was good. Now, women do not process alcohol as easily as men or the same way. Men can tolerate a little bit more without causing damage. Men can have two in a day without causing significant their body. Women one is what they say in terms of our liver function, liver, kidney, etc. The other thing that is important with menopause is that alcohol does affect our sleep. So having more than one, you may find that your sleep becomes more disruptive. You're waking up during the night, not being able to go back to sleep, different things like that. It affects our mechanisms, our melatonin, etc., which is another whole topic. But I did want to bring that up in terms of how it affects you in menopause. And does increase your likelihood if you're drinking more than that, increases your likelihood of chronic diseases and it subtracts years from your life. So if you're not in that good range, set your goal and determine how you want to handle that. So if you are eating perfectly according to all these lifestyle factors, do you still need multivitamin mineral formula? I don't really know the answer, and I don't think anybody else does, but just so that you fill that gap, if there is any kind of gap, I do recommend taking kind of a baseline vitamin mineral, not really high levels of things, but something that is natural and whole food. I use one from Standard Process that's just kind of a basic level vitamin mineral that provides all the nutrients that we need from food. So that is agreed that that can be helpful for pretty much everyone. So that years taking vitamins they have found to prevent cataracts, cardiovascular disease, memory loss, cognitive decline, and other age-related conditions. So it's definitely not a bad idea to take this on a daily basis, and that would be the best answer is taking it every day. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, I think most people know what an antioxidant is, and basically they help cells basically from oxidation, which is common from both inside the body stress and outside stresses, toxins, and all kinds of things that environment, pollution, etc. So we can have inside and outside pollution, which antioxidants help. So the more you take without and I don't wanna say that because some people do go overboard. I think the first person died from vitamin D that ever discovered because more was I don't even know how much he was taking, but it was way off the chart, and, it caused him to have liver and kidney failure. So I don't want you to go overdo this, but definitely having 2 a day is not a bad thing, and it will help prevent cellular aging. So I did list a few of the more common ones, and the ones that I recommend or is prescribed for certain people may have different functions than others. Some actually can go through the blood-brain barrier and help your brain. Some are more for joints, and they have different functions and different things that they work better at. Turmeric seems to have a really wide range effect in with many different people. Vitamin E and C, you're very familiar with, I'm sure. Grapeseed extract is a really good one. Alpha lipoic acid really helps with nerve pain and nerve inflammation, especially like in the legs and the bottom of the feet with people who have diabetes, neuropathy. So they all have different effects. And there are some that also help rebuild collagen in the skin to reverse the effect of aging skin. And there are just a full range of different kinds. So I do recommend you take these antioxidant, anti-inflammatory substances. It will help you feel better and it will help you prevent aging and reverse the age of your body. All right, let's go to the next one. Vitamin D. So, vitamin D, taking a supplement for our well being, and how much you should take is what varies, and it's hard to specifically tell you. But personally, I take 5,000, and I find that most people need that much. But the only way to really tell is actually getting a test. And on your workbook, it shows you that you should be at least 60 nanograms per deciliter. And that is at the level that prevents 83% of breast cancer and many other cancers and helps with your immune system. And I believe people who are over that level probably would not get COVID. I can't tell you for sure, but I know that I'm one of very few people that never got it and was around it quite a bit. I wasn't isolated. Some of the things that it's essential for I listed here: bone health, immune health, breast health, hormonal balance, autoimmune diseases, cellular health. So you can see why I call it the miracle vitamin. And I do on YouTube, you can look up, I have a whole video about this. So I did on the worksheet that daily 5,000 was the level. However, I do want to stress again the importance of actually being tested and knowing how much you have. I do have one patient that was taking more and she got up to like 92 pretty quickly. But because we process vitamin D differently, it's very difficult to tell someone how much they need. It's just one of those unusual, because you may have a lot of the need that, like we're talking about here with your bone, immune, breast, etc., and maybe your body's using it faster so that you need more. And do get tested and find out what your levels are and get it up to that 60. Oh, and on the grassrootshealth.net, grassrootshealth.net, there is a calculator that will show you if you're at a certain level. Let's say your level is 40 and you want to get it up to 60. You can put it in their calculator with your height and weight. I don't know if there's any other information, but it will tell you how much you need to take to get up to that level. So I think that's pretty cool. So I do want you to make sure you get your vitamin D. All right, let's go to the next slide. Now, on this question about the exercise, we're talking about moderate exercise, which is weightlifting, yoga, tai chi, moderate intensity exercise. We're not talking about running or bicycling or swimming, which are more intensive on the cardiovascular system. So, and this on this particular slide. So we do recommend a minimum of 20 to 40 minutes of moderate exercise based on that level. And at that level, we improve our whole DNA, a telomere biology, which is the little parts of the DNA that get worn down from stress and aging. And when we exercise, we actually improve that. We improve our mitochondrial function, which is our energy function. So we'll have more energy than like the whole next day. You'll find that you have more energy if you exercise the day before. It has an accumulative effect. It also will, the other thing is it helps with weight management. If you do intensive exercise, you will eat the same amount of calories as you expended. But when you do moderate exercise, like we're talking about, you actually expend more energy than you will take in, and therefore you have a deficit and you will lose weight. So that's a real key and important part in menopause, losing weight. It will also help you reduce inflammation and helps to contribute to your healthy aging and longevity. And there's just a clear connection between exercise and mortality, not death from all causes, including cancer, osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, every kind of disease you can talk about. And I do recommend that kind of having some variety. You don't want to do all one kind of exercise because they may not use all the muscles. Walking is one of the best. I do want you to create some stretching, and I'm going to put a free, you're going to, will be included in the classroom. So you can actually use that as a full body stretch. It takes about 20 minutes or so. And you can do that on a regular basis. You also want to do things that improve balance. And that's one reason why I recommend Tai Chi is because that has a combination of being a moderate exercise. It moves slow, but it makes you intentionally use them, all the different muscles in your body, and helps a lot with balance, which is a key factor in aging. A lot of older people, what do you hear? They fell and they broke a bone. Why is that? Because they lost their balance, right? So that's an important thing. So you have flexibility, balance, as well as increase your cardiovascular and muscle function. So vigorous exercise is also important. We're going to look at that in just a minute, but we don't want to overdo anything. So this is about moderate exercise. So go ahead and set your goal for that, and let's go to the next slide. How important is sleep? I hear a lot of people, not just women, think that as they get older, that they can get away with less sleep. Like, only sleep 5 or 6 hours. That's all I need. Well, that just doesn't appear to be true according to the research. They do find that sleep is essential for repair of our entire body and mind, and that having shorter sleep duration and poor sleep quality does increase our aging, cellular aging, and age-related diseases. So it is really important to get 7 to 9 hours is the average. And there are various, and does seem to be affected by our hormones. And as I mentioned earlier on the slide about alcohol, it does seem to, we seem to have a bigger impact of alcohol as women and women that are menopausal. So those are two things that can cause fluctuations. We also, there's stress. There's a decrease in our melatonin production, which is a whole other topic. I'm going to be doing a video about that, but it is an essential thing. So 7 to 9 hours should be your goal. And if you're not at that level, then this is something that you can work on and we can work on. Okay, I mentioned earlier that not drinking enough water is like not emptying the toilet. The same thing as not having the bowel movement. If you don't have a bowel movement every day, you're not cleaning out all the toxins that have accumulated that our body is generally pretty good at removing through your kidneys and liver and gastrointestinal tract, and then releasing it through urine and bowel function. So it is a very important part of aging, and it I didn't realize this till I was doing this more research for this, but it does contribute to cognitive decline for people who don't have regular bowel movements. Have a greater cognitive decline and dementias, including Alzheimer's. So let's make sure we're going to the bathroom at least one time a day. And if you're not, we need to figure out what we can do to fix that. So, how many of these conditions do you have? Do you have none? Do you have more than one? Or none of them? And if you have two or more, there is a connection with having it be more because it's causing more oxidative stress on your body, causing tissue damage and dysfunction to your entire system. So you may feel it in your joints, but that's not the only place that the damage is happening. So these chronic indicator that you have chronic inflammation. And it probably had been there for a long time before you even started to feel it, at least to the point where you went to a doctor to get it diagnosed. And they can tremendously accelerate our aging process. Doesn't matter how many, like if you take medication to help the symptoms and they're not causing as much problems now that you can see, it doesn't mean that they're not affecting your body. And it most of it has to do with lifestyle. There really are a lot of things that you can do to reverse it in terms of diet and supplementation and all the things that we are talking about on this lifestyle video. So if you have them already, it doesn't mean that you can't turn things around. If you have a form of arthritis that has decayed your joints, you may not get it completely back, but you can arrest it and you can prevent it from continuing to manifest and cause further damage in your body. That goes for diabetes, heart disease, obesity, migraines, all of these chronic conditions. Let's take hold of that now. Let's do something about it and see what we can do to reverse your age. All right, let's go to the next slide. So, how often do you get colds and flus and sore throats and COVID or any kind of chronic immune thing? Not like rheumatoid or what we were talking about early with these chronic conditions, but maybe you just get colds more regularly and you don't think anything of it. These are all still an indicator that your immune system is not as good, working as well as it could. So it may not be a real serious issue in comparison to diabetes, let's say, but it does mean that can be accelerating your aging, and then there generally are things that we can do about it. When I was younger, I got sick a lot. I had a lot of terrible sore throats, sinus problems, colds, flus, etc. And I took a lot of antibiotics as a young person because in those days nobody knew. And it turned out years later, I didn't find out till I was in my 30s that I had celiac disease. And so I had been eating all the wrong foods for my body, and my body was just, like, rebelling like crazy, but, I didn't know what to do. So, since that time that I have taken control of my diet, my exercise, and all of these things that I've changed over the years, I almost never get a cold or flu, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, I never got COVID. I don't get sore throats, my immune system is functioning pretty darn good. So I feel good about that. And that is something that you can really change with lifestyle factors and supplementation to really improve your own well-being and help reverse your age. So that is we want to get to the point of rarely get any of the above. All right, let's go to the next slide. So, if you are having some of those conditions that we talked about earlier, the diabetes or any chronic conditions or other conditions, you probably are on a number of prescribed medications because that may have been all you knew to do. You went to the doctor, they put you on, you think that that's all you need to do. And rarely do they ever talk about some of the underlying reasons and things that you can do to change that. That's called polypharmacy when you're taking multiple medications for all these chronic conditions. And I see a lot of patients that are in their 70s, 80s, and their list just is kind of scary to me because I only take one, and it is I take the lowest dose of a blood pressure medication. And actually, I have found that my blood pressure has been coming down, so maybe I won't have to be on that forever. But anyway, I definitely am on it, and I recommend it. If you need it, you have to be on it. Some of these medications, though, are things that there are other things that can help, and that you don't need to be on the medication because the medication can affect their brain function, affect other things inside your body, and cause damage where it may be helping one problem but causing another, especially when you're taking multiple ones. And it's also been found that adults who take psychotropic drugs like muscle relaxants, opioids, etc., they are at a much higher risk for all-cause mortality than those who are not on those drugs. They may have an increase in accidents or other issues with their body that increase their risk of death. So, it's very important to monitor your medications on a regular basis for one thing. Make sure that the pharmacist knows everything that you're on and that they're telling you if there's any interactions. That's really important. You think that they're looking out for you, but you're the one who has to look out for you. So anyway, if there are for some medications, there are herbs and things that actually work better with less side effects for some of these conditions. And you need to work with someone who understands that, who's not going to um, take you off of a medication that's essential for your life, of course. But if it's something that you're taking for arthritis, let's say, there are far better options than a lot of the medications that cause very severe damage to our body. And they just, I've been reading too for metformin, a lot of controversy over that, and a lot of potential side effects and really terrible outcomes in metformin. And I remember that my mother had been on metformin for diabetes, and it caused her to have a lot of diarrhea and gastrointestinal problems. So, like I said, it was causing one problem, trying to help another when there may have been other options besides that. So that's very important about medications. Let's go to the next slide. So I know if you have made it this far in life and you're still smoking, you know what the damage is from smoking. So I am just going to review it because it's part of this slide presentation, but smoking accelerates your aging significantly because it cuts down the amount of oxygen getting to your body. So not only does it cause damage to lungs, which everyone is familiar with, it also causes increased generation, diminishes your libido, contributes to osteoporosis, loss of bone density, premature death, cardiovascular disease, neurological disease, psychosexual dysfunction, and mood disorders. The list is pretty extensive. So if you're wanting to quit and you haven't been able to, I definitely suggest talking to one of the agencies about quit smoking that offer both psychological one-on-one connection support as well as the patch so that you have get as much support as you can to make that switch. And there are certain kinds of vapes now that they make that are not as potentially the early ones were, that also help people get off of cigarette smoke. So there are definitely multiple options. And this is just one of the ones that you can't get away from the damage that it's causing. Is just one of the worst. All right. I know you know. Let's go to the next slide. So, in our culture and our society, many people feel the effect of chronic stress, especially if you live in more of the city environments that promote doing and working hard. That's the American way. You always have to be doing something. If you're not doing something, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you going out doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And that actually causes us a lot of stress because we just start mentally thinking we're not doing enough. That makes us feel like we're not enough, and the stress just gets internalized because a lot of women just can't or don't really understand how to set those boundaries. A lot of it is about boundaries, and that's something else that we do teach in our class. But it's very important for us to take the time to reduce the stresses that accumulate in our body and put more focus on being rather than doing. And these activities that I listed, like meditation, yoga, tai chi, laughter, breathing, and progressive muscle relaxation, all help us focus on our being, our body and mind, and clear because our mind is not that voice always that we're hearing the chatter and constantly ruminating on things. We have a mind and consciousness that's really connected above, down, inside out. Okay, our spiritual mind, body, spirit connection. When we do these practices, we can reconnect to that, and it will help your body to regenerate and help to be very restoring. Would help you sleep better. It helps us get back to who we really are. So with that, I will leave you. That is the end of the lifestyle part of the presentation. I've included a number of resources, one of which is this bibliography, if you care to look up any of the information. And I remember I did give you the name of that book called You Staying Young. And I do believe they have a newer version out than the one that I first got back in 1999, 2000. This is a partial bibliography of all the different to healthy to aging, and you're welcome to check that out. On the next slide, I talk about we understand that these factors that I've gone over today are for two reasons. One is to help reduce your menopausal symptoms and relieve your symptoms. And that's very important because we can have more control over 60% of that. And this is kind of the beginning of an introduction to our full program. Also, making these changes in your lifestyle will reverse your biological age and help the inside be the chronological age that you were born. So, adding life to your years, whether or not you add years to your life, which you may very well do also, but you'll have more vitality and you'll revive that inner being of self that is inside that sometimes gets lost during menopause. All right, let's go to the next slide. And I did want to congratulate you if you've gotten to this point. We are offering you get 100 points for completing this. It goes towards the 4-hour program, and you can click here for more info, or you can also find it in the classroom. All right, so I am very excited that you are part of this with me, and I am excited to be part of your journey. You're reversing your age journey. All right. Have a wonderful day and namaste.